My name is Bez Sangari. I'm the CEO of Sangari South Africa. We've been in the business of supplying educational technologies for many, many years. I've actually started in this business in 1982, so that was quite a long time ago. We have always tried to come up with new ideas and new systems, and sometimes we're way ahead of our time. One of them was satellite broadcast technology, where we broadcasted science lessons to students at schools in Lesotho. I think it was grade 8 students, and they could actually respond with assessment units that was in their hands. That was 12 years ago, or in fact more. I'd say that was probably about 16 years ago. At any rate, it was too early for its time, but hopefully we're now catching up. Let's talk about my presentation here, which is about e-learning. And to my mind, there hasn't been a greater innovation in teaching and learning since the printing press. Now, when we talk about new technologies, it also means we got to change the way we do things. And, you know, we supplied a lot of, for example, interactive whiteboards into schools. And later we found that the teachers were simply picking up the electronic pen and writing on it as they were doing with chalkboard. So that wasn't really what it was meant for. So whenever you've got new technologies, you've got to change your strategy of teaching. So for e-learning, we should be looking at, rather than the one-way feeding of education or content, is about self-study, collaborative learning, planning, and analysis tool. So in e-learning, I'm going to go through it fairly quickly because I assume most people know most of the things and we can have questions at the end. But basically, there's asynchronous online courses where a student would sit and go through content which is online, and at the end of it, take some sort of electronic assessment, and that would be a program that is done. Synchronous online courses would be where the teacher is involved on the day-to-day teaching, where there will be some online content, but the teacher would actually be teaching at the same time, like this webinar or face-to-face videos. And then we have the hybrid blended courses, where the teacher would use online learning when the kids are not at school, and when they're in school, obviously there would be face-to-face, and then there will be maybe for even the teacher to use the interactive technologies to show things taken from the internet in the classroom. So I'll quickly go through the components of an e-learning ecosystem. And that starts with the learner management system. That's the platform which delivers the course content. And that's where you manage all your learners and their courses and so on. CMS, content management system. You need to know what your content is and where you keep it. And basically a library of all your content in whatever format they're in. Then you need a set of collaboration tools, video conferencing, messaging, interactive whiteboards. You could have anything. You could have VR headsets for use in the classroom, anything that allows more learning to happen. Productivity tools is simple. It's what we use every day, the email, calendar, notebook, note-taking, and to-do list. So that's something that we're used to. Google has it, and Microsoft, and so on. Now, content is an important one. Whilst a lot of people want to develop their own content, nowadays there's so much online, but it's so important to make sure that the content is correct, concise, and accurate. And it's in such a format that students can understand it easily, and more than that, for it to be memorable, so they can memorize it, I guess. Digital simulations, that's something that nowadays is becoming more and more in use. We're certainly seeing it in our company. We're seeing a lot of requests for it. And if you're going onto an e-learning platform, it's important to have, because it gives the practical learning experience. The dashboard, that's all your monitoring and analytics. Very important, not just for the teacher, but also for the management of the school to see where all the gaps are and how we can improve our teaching. Now, the teacher is obviously a big part of this thing, where they guide the learner, moderate content. I've mentioned here flipping the classroom. And I'd like to just talk about that a little bit. Now, I've just gone into e-learning, assuming that everybody, since the COVID problems that we've had, everyone's quite well aware of the use of e-learning and how rapidly it has grown. We all actually thought that 10 years ago, it would have already taken root in all classrooms, but it took a disaster for it to happen. But sometimes that's how it is. Flipping the classroom is something, in fact, I just added to this page because we were talking about parents and their engagement. Now, when my kids were at school, often they'd come back, they'd have homework, and they say, "Daddy, please help me." And I'd look at it, it'd be a nice bit of maths. I used to be very good at maths. And I would go through it. First, I would have to go and remember what it was. Then, of course, my first comment would be, it's not the way I was taught. But there we are. It is a problem for all parents, whether they are educated, uneducated, they always need to help the student. And it's not always possible. So one of the strategies that many schools started to implement more than 10 years ago in the US was flipping the classroom, because with the use of an e-learning platform, the teacher can simply post the lessons as videos or as other content so that the students can actually learn the lesson or look at the videos and engage with it in the evening for their homework, and then bring their homework into the class and do it in the class where the teacher is there who can help them. So flipping the classroom did work very, very well and is still continuing to do so. Just want to go over some of those components. There are many LMS providers who, if you put them together with Microsoft, Google, Zoom, etc., you can provide the whole ecosystem that you would need. It's very few who have everything in one place. In fact, I think there's a Chinese company that we're working with that they've actually developed the whole thing. The dashboard analytics is extremely important because that allows the teacher to prioritize students. So where a student is struggling, you want to be able to pick that up immediately, or if they have learning gaps in their knowledge. We were talking about maths, where a matric student didn't know some grade 4 material. In fact, I've spoken to university teachers teaching, I think she was teaching microbiology 2nd year, and she gave a simple test to her students about proportions. And I think 80% of it got it wrong. So it's really important to be able to pick up learning gaps very early on, and you can easily do it with an e-learning system, with a good analytics dashboard, of course. So the biggest problem in implementing e-learning systems, I always see, is change management, getting the teachers not just to learn, but to get used to using it. Once they get used to using it, in fact, they realize how much more time they will have to actually help students that need help. And it takes a lot of work out of their hands, but to actually get them to get onto any new technology, not just teachers, for anyone, it's quite a difficult thing to do. So it's a priority, not only to give good training, but also if you're going to implement an e-learning platform, it's actually enforce the use of it. So content mentioned there in the ecosystem is very important. we always say content is king. If you don't have good content, the whole e-learning platform is actually pretty useless. So YouTube has everything. I mean, nowadays, whenever I want to do something around the house and I'm not the handiest guy, I just look it up on YouTube, and eventually I find a video that helps me fix the window or the door or whatever it is I'm trying to fix. And that's the main problem with it. It's not easily, the best content is not easy to find. Of course, there are content providers who are paid for, and they do produce things professionally. These pictures here I'm shown here is from LJ Create, who have a very large library of STEM content, which includes animations, simulations, assessments, tasks, all sorts of amazing content, which helps students learn quicker and, of course, very memorable. So to internalize the content is much easier. There are a couple of free sites which are pretty good. PhET Simulations from, I think, Colorado University. Excellent simulations. Most of them are user-friendly. Some of them you have to sit and learn very well how to use. Khan Academy is obviously another one, which has helped a lot of people, and it is an amazing tool to have. So e-learning by itself is a tool. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have strategies to be able to use these new tools. And what I'd like to try and, I'm trying to show a video here, but I'm not sure if it will show. But we'll get there, because I've got two other videos. So if I can't show this one, then it's going to be I'll just have to do a lot more talking then. Now, learning as in the past was always data driven, and what we are trying to do, and some of the earlier speakers actually talked about it, should be task-driven or object-driven or project-driven. So if we make that change from data-driven to task-driven, what would it actually look like? And I personally feel that it would feel more like real life, because when you go out to actually get a job, nobody's going to give you a test every day. They're going to give you tasks to do, and you have to be able to complete those tasks. You have to think about them. You have to come up with your solutions and prepare your answers and your task, and actually get something done. So in the meanwhile, my computer has stopped for a minute. I'm going to go to the next page and see if we can play you a video, which may be unlikely. What I want to show you is videos. Okay, before I go to that, teaching or entertaining. So the teachers that are most memorable from when I went to school, and I'm sure the same for all of you, are the guys who could really entertain you. And you do remember more if you're emotionally connected to whatever it is at that point that you're learning. But it's, not every teacher is going to be a great entertainer. So why not use the technology to make all teachers great entertainers by having great content? And the other part of it is that through play, you can learn a lot quicker. And through play, it can be a lot more immersive and engaging and memorable. For me, these are all important words for learning anything. And STEM, I have to remember, it's all about doing. So play is what actually how children learn, and it's not really what we're doing in the classroom. STEM certainly should be taught in that way. So there are many games and competitions, and I'm going to try and show you two of them. I'm not sure how successful the video is going to be, but we'll give it a bash. Okay, it doesn't look like the video is going to happen. One more go. Okay, so this video was about a program called Coders, and it's an online learning program which teaches anyone. They take it from the age of 9 to 19. That's what they're saying, and it is a very good program to teach basic coding when it comes to robotics. Now, because everything is online, there's no additional cost for having any robots in hand, but if you do have, that would be fantastic. Now, online or just coding is extremely important, as right now a lot of people like Elon Musk have already said that, you know, if they're not going to employ someone who doesn't know how to code. And our grade 1 students who will be ready for work in 12 or 15 years, I think by then coding will be as required as your basic knowledge of working with Microsoft Excel or Word. Our teachers are not coders, and you can't expect them to be teaching coding at any level. It won't take them long to learn, but they would need to have good training and good hand-holding and support. And a program like Coders will actually do that. There are many programs online, some free of charge, some paid for. Coders is a paid for one. Why I like Coders is that it comes with a competition as well. And it really is something that is working with some major companies like Amazon, and they've developed it quite far. I do believe in competitions in a big way. I think it inspires a lot of kids to get involved with things which they normally wouldn't have done. And I truly believe that if we want the masses of our learners to get involved in the future economy, it has to be online. It has to be with e-learning. There's only so much that our science centers can do, only so many people so many students and learners they can reach. But if they're having more and more access to online products like Coders, like I think there's one called Hatch, and there's many other ones, where probably even on their phone they'll be able to learn how to code, and we just have to encourage that. So my next video, which I'm probably going to show you, is about Formula One in schools. Now this, some people would say, well, why would you say it's online? Well, it wasn't online. It's about kids building a Formula One car, a model only about 29, 30 centimeters long, and shooting it down a track. Some of you may have heard about it. We were actively involved with it pre-COVID, and hopefully it will start again soon. It has moved completely online, and students now can collaborate with each other and actually set up their teams, register for competition, design and make their car, do their marketing program, and participate in a world competition. So we'll move on to the next slide. These videos, if you want to see them, just Google coders or Google F1 in schools. They have a lot of learning materials for STEM online available for everyone. And I just wanted to show you how you can make STEM into project-based and get your students to participate in these competitions. So one of the things about Formula One in schools is that students have to go out and learn a lot of technical knowledge by themselves. And you know, depending on whether they are in primary school or in secondary school, obviously it changes to what level of science they need to learn. But we have had 13-year-olds who've gone on to research aerodynamics, and we had 14-year-olds who actually worked on computational fluid dynamics to be able to streamline their car so that it goes faster. All of this they learned as just-in-time learning. Was specifically to make their car go faster. They went and learned what they needed to do, needed to know to be able to do this. All of these STEM programs, they can fit into the school curriculum. It sometimes takes a bit of imagination, but they're all part of the curriculum. Also in these competitions, there are other skills like communications, time management, and many other skills which are taught: marketing, art and design, graphic design. So these STEM projects and competitions, they're inherently cross-curricular activities. I seem to have missed out cross-curricular here, but that's a very important point here. And you only need a computer and connectivity, which 10 years ago, it was something out of reach for most people. Today, it's become a lot more accessible, and hopefully in the future, it will be there for everyone. But certainly Gauteng has made great strides in providing computers into schools and getting them the connectivity that they need. So why do we need e-learning? STEM has got very little funding in schools. Technology at school has got very little funding. We have, as mentioned before by others, great lack of mathematics, science, and technology teachers in the country. Now, one of the biggest problems for me is that technology as a subject doesn't go further than grade 9. So it's actually not supported in most of the schools, especially in schools which don't have any technology or engineering programs in grade 10. So we have seen many times where a technology teacher is actually an English teacher or a history teacher, or someone who has actually nothing to do with technology. So it's unlikely that they're going to put any funding or anything into a subject where it doesn't carry on into matric. We need to get learners excited about STEM from primary school. We talked earlier, we're talking about how early should we start with kids in maths. Maths is obviously as soon as possible, but STEM also. Why not at primary school where they're still inquisitive and they're still interested, to be able to push them on. E-learning with good content can make this happen. You can have kids from a very early age getting involved and learning about STEM and becoming interested. And without that early intervention, we're going to run out of our engineers in this country. Already the average age of our engineers is well into the late 50s. So we need more engineers. For that, we need to get kids involved much earlier. Now, one part of what I was going to talk about was future of technology in education. Artificial intelligence is already becoming a big thing. And amazingly enough, education is among the top 5 business sectors using chatbots. Now, chatbots are a lower form of artificial intelligence, but it's coming. And they are going to have chatbots which are going to be able to teach the students about the specific areas of math, science, technology, history, whatever that is required. That is coming in the next 5 to 10 years. And who knows, maybe they'll be using virtual reality goggles and going into the metaverse. If you've heard of the metaverse, that's another thing that is coming, but it's still a few years away. But hopefully these types of innovation will democratize learning, and teachers can use these as tools and not be afraid of them that it's going to take their jobs away. Because as we see in our schools, one teacher teaching a classroom of 100 kids is you can't do it, but with technology you actually can. Now, I was told to give a few points for takeaways. I've got one, but it does encompass a few things. So e-learning systems should be used to implement new strategies for teaching and learning, and make STEM learning just in time, task-driven, and cross-curricular. It's possible to do it with e-learning. And it will take the teachers to engage with it and to be able to work together and make it happen. There's a lot of content available, and we can also have students developing content for it as well. So just in time, task-driven, and cross-curricular. I think I will now leave it there.
That was very interesting. Thanks very much indeed. Time for questions, questions and answers. I'm just quickly looking at the chat. Lindy Zikalalo says, I agree with Mr. Parthy. No, so with Parthy. And we need to make sure that resources are sufficient and accessible. And Parthy Chetty said that he agrees. When we introduce new technology, we must spend sufficient time and resources training the teachers.
Yes, whenever we have introduced technology in any environment, whether universities, colleges, schools, it's very important to have the teacher understand how this technology is going to make their life easier and make them a better teacher, make their performance higher. And once you do that, then technology does get absorbed very quickly and used fully.